300 seals. Cut off, forsaken. Orders said wait and die. One woman said no. Sopiha James, sniper, shadow, last hope. A broken watch. An empty wallet. A dusty road. 6 choices, 6 miracles. And a shot the world never heard. The forest did not welcome them. It swallowed them. Parachutes snagged in tall branches. Boots sank in damp soil. The night was cold and exact, like a blade laid flat against the skin. Radio checks whispered through earpieces, clipped and calm. But the calm was only a lid over boiling water. Sopiha James crouched beside a fallen teak, her rifle on a sling, her palms slick with rain and tree sap. She was small for the weight she carried. On her left wrist lay a watch with a cracked face. The second hand stuttered, then quit. The glass had spider veins from a shell fragment years ago. She never fixed it. She said a broken watch keeps you honest about time. You stop counting it. You start feeling it. The plan had been tight. A chain of red dots on a screen. Dropped behind the ridgeline, cut the cables, cut the eyes, cut the tongue, leave before dawn. Then the map turned into a rumor. The enemy was not where they had been. The jammers were not asleep. And the ridge had grown teeth. Static on all channels, a voice said. Jamming confirmed. Hold pattern Delta, another said. Do not break. Sopiha stayed still. Silence in the trees meant nothing. Silence could be like snow. Heavy, deceptive, full of noise you could not hear. A boy in a man's gear slid beside her. The name tape said Keen. He was breathing too fast. She tapped his shoulder. He nodded and slowed it down. In and out. Like a tide. Like a trigger you respect. Far off, a flare clawed up and burst. Red rain, then another. The forest changed colors. Shadows hardened. Something moved where nothing should move. She put her cheek to the stock and followed a thin line of absence, the way air warps over heat. A scope does not care about bravery. It only cares about angles and truth. Her first shot went out like a secret. The figure fell as though someone cut a string. The second shot took the radio man who had begun to speak the word north. The third found a flank runner who had thought trees meant safety. Then the jammers got mean. Their signal came down like a storm. The nets went blind. Footsteps rose all around. There are sounds you learn when you live long in places where the ground holds weapons. Boot rubber flexing on wet bark. The breath a man takes before he believes he will kill you. The hush of fabric brushing a trigger guard. Command? Someone asked the dark. The dark didn't answer. Sopiha licked the rain from her upper lip. It tasted like iron. Her empty wallet lay inside her chest pocket, thin leather bent like a paperback. She carried it, though it held nothing. Not a photo, not a note, just creases. She said it reminded her that you can owe the world everything and own nothing and still choose to pay. The first volley shredded leaves to dust. Men dropped into mud. She shot left, then far left, then right. She used the trunks as metronomes. In the clatter, time stopped mattering, which meant the broken watch was correct again. She smiled at that. Fall back. A squad leader barked. Secondary line. They moved in short dashes. Fire, shift, breathe, move. The wounded were dragged on ponchos. Keen took a fragment through his collar and went silent. Sopiha pressed gauze and felt his blood heat her gloves. Am I? He started. You're alive, she said, and you're going to curse about it tomorrow. She did not believe in promising outcomes. She believed in precise verbs. The enemy pressed like a tide that had learned to walk. Mortars began drawing rings in the sky. Drones buzzed low, angry hornets hunting for heat and movement. The seals broke into companies, then squads, then quads. The forest did not hold them. It sorted them. It put them into small problems and tried to solve them. A message bled through the static. Extraction, delayed, hold position, survive, hold, survive. 2 words that can cancel each other. Sopiha looked at the watch. The second hand was pointed straight at her. It should have been harmless. It looked like an accusation. She wiped mud from the dial with her thumb. The glass caught a shred of flare light and threw it back at her eye. She saw herself in it, small and warped and stubborn. Forget the orders, someone muttered, not on the net, just to the earth. The word struck the ground and stuck there like a bayonet stabbed into clay. The forest exhaled. The mortar stopped. That is the worst part, when the noise dies and you hear your heart admit something it has been hiding. From the ridge came a voice. Not on the radio. Clear. Close. Female. Calm. West draw, it said. Now they all froze. The ridge said it again. West draw. Now. Sopiha swung her scope and found a silhouette cutting the ridgeline like a slash of ink. The figure lifted a palm, closed it, and vanished. "Who is she?" Keen whispered. Sopiha stood, wiped her hands on her thighs, and started toward the west draw. Behind them, the ground clicked. A sound like a camera shutter. The world turned bright white, and then it turned off. Light didn't return all at once. It seeped back like water through cloth. First a hush of rain on leaves, then the thin click of cooling metal, then the sour breath of ash. Sopiha blinked grit from her lashes and tasted metal on her tongue. Keen coughed beside her, alive enough to complain later. The blast that should have taken them had folded the hillside the other way. Someone had walked them through a lace of old mines and made the hunters step first. Who called it? A captain rasped, mud striping his teeth. Sopiha scanned the ridge, a hard black wedge. No silhouette now. Only a memory of a hand lifted once and closed. She rose into the gully's throat, and there it was. A dusty road, not a road really, a trick. Canvas strips were strung low like dead leaves, throwing a dull skin over white chalk. A drone would see mottled brown. A boot would feel quiet, west draw, she said. Then this. Move light. They filed under the false canopy. Shoulders touching, rifles canted, silence carried like extra weight. The road kinked through sapling root and clay cuts. It had no right to exist, and yet it did. A rumor that had grown bones. After 2 bends, the figure waited by a broken saint. Head gone, hands open. She wore a plain scarf over cropped hair. A long rifle lay across her knees, clean in all the places that mattered and dirty in all the places that told the truth. Her eyes didn't challenge. They measured. Name? Sopiha asked. Call me Six, the woman said. Not my name, but it will keep. Six offered a square of laminated film, blue ink lines that had bled at edges. Crosses marked trees that were towers. Circles marked caches where the earth had swallowed metal. Arrows threaded ravines like needles. It wasn't pretty. It was correct. Your orders? Six asked. Hold. Survive. Sopiha kept her face blank. Those aren't orders. Those are last words. Six tapped the map. Cut the eyes. Cut the tongue. Then walk. The ground trembled. March rhythm. Disciplined. Close. Sopiha's thumb found the spidered glass of her broken watch. The second hand had quit years ago. Somehow it always pointed at her when she needed reminding. She and the watch agreed. Time was feeling, not counting. They split. Sopiha with 20, low through a culvert that smelled like old rain and bad promises. Six with a tale of quiet guns and a medic whose hands moved even when he stood still. At the blind, they settled. The tower wasn't a tree. Too regular. Too proud. 3 guards paced the base, bored fingers tapping ribs. Six exhaled and plucked the cigarette from the world with a whispering shot. Sopiha broke the radio hand of the man who reached to warn. The third ran left, as most right-handed fear does, and discovered that Six had drawn a line there in her head 5 minutes before. Explosives clung to the tower like showy earrings. Pride had wired them. Pride seldom double-checks. Six's pen scratched 2 dots on the film and slid it to Sopiha. Your sentence. Sopiha set her cheek to the stock. The cracked watch pressed a small cold moon into her wrist. She remembered the empty wallet in her chest pocket, stitched twice with fishing line, and the dusty road of her childhood that left and never looked back. She squeezed. Light flared inward. Sound raced outward. The jammers staggered. For 5 clean seconds, the sky forgot to lie. In that gap, a voice cut the net. All teams. Follow the road that looks like it goes nowhere. Identify, someone demanded. Silence. Then branches shattered. Friendly faces burst from the brush, eyes wide, mouths dirt-lined. Orders? The captain panted. Six's mouth twitched. Forget orders. Keep promises, and what promise? He asked. That we don't leave each other, Sopiha said. A horn cried from the ridge, hollow, wet, wrong. Enemy wolves loosed. The dusty road dropped like a swallowed breath into shadow, a throat waiting. Sopiha showed her teeth. Down! The horn answered, closer, as if the road itself had learned their names and was about to say one aloud. The road disliked straight lines. It braided itself through root and rock, pausing to pretend it ended, then slipping behind a groan of bamboo to continue. The column learned to be a single creature, hand to sleeve, breath to breath, carrying their wounded in ponchos stretched between poles that creaked like they remembered ships. In a leaf-dark hollow, they stole 1 minute. Not 2, 1. Keen shivered, fingers useless past the tourniquet. Sopiha caught his hand between hers, warming bone. "Why the empty wallet?" he asked through teeth. "So I never think I'm owed," she said. "By luck, by the world. By God, if he bothers. Does it work?" "Sometimes." She slid it out. Thin leather, creased like old language. Weightless and heavy, both. Six crouched nearby, scratching fresh lines on a cheap notebook page. The blue ruled lines had dissolved into rainwater ghosts. She mapped like a hunter. Sleep points, feed points, wire bowls where the enemy drank power. "You run alone?" Sopiha asked. "I run with whoever can still count to 1 after their leaders teach them to count to 0, Six said, not looking up. A new sound entered the jungle. No drone, no bird. A ratcheting beetle chitter, sniffers, boxy, tracked toys with noses that knew iron and blood. "We take their nose," Six murmured. She opened a pouch. Torn cloth, a 9-volt wrapped like candy, a twist of coppery liquid in plastic, a tape-bound loop of hair. "Waste nothing, respect everything." They turned a fork into a lie. Heat, iron, scent, and watched the sniffers circle themselves stupid. The enemy would follow. The column slid the other way, moving inside that absence like a fish traveling in the river's shadow. The first dead village announced itself with silence. Tin roofs peeled like foil. A school's chalkboard lay face down in tire tracks. Outside the market, a broken watch sat drowned in a puddle. No glass, no hands. Just 3 loose screws winking like lost teeth. Sopiha lifted it, placed it beside the empty wallet in her pocket, and felt the odd comfort of carrying time and money that could not be spent. "Weight you can't shoot with," Six said. "It helps me remember why I shoot," Sopiha answered. The dusty road brightened beyond the village, chalk fining up into powder. Footsteps wrote white signatures on their ankles. Six shook her head. "Don't mark dust. Dust remembers too well." So they signed trees instead. A notch here, a twist of grass, a false path whispered to any predator that could read. Drones stacked overhead. Six pulled a tarp and dragged Sopiha and Keen beneath. Sweat, mold, old men who'd never made it home. 4 slow minutes, and each was a year. When the buzzing lifted, Sopiha checked the cracked watch, the second hand still accused. Good. Agreement held. A ring of stones waited in a small clearing, a totem pole in the middle bound with frayed copper, a shrine to dead signal. Six teased the strands loose with a gentleness that belonged at a child's bedside. "Live?" Keen asked. "We'll know," Six said, and smiled slightly when it didn't bite. She coiled the copper like hair and fed it to her pouch. On the edge of the field, a man slumped hooded and tied to a stump. Every lesson Sopiha had about traps pressed a palm to her chest. She went alone. The blade worked slow. The hood came away to a gray mask and 2 bright marbles, blue, stubborn. She remembered a mess line and a coffee joke. Names attached themselves to kindness. He tried her name, Soapy, and coughed blood. He couldn't walk. They made a harness from belts and will. A blue flare climbed and hung too long, neither theirs nor the enemy's. Daring. Bait. Six listened to the hiss die. "Good," she said. "Let them look where we are not." Mortars walked in. First short, second closer, third kissing the ring of stones until it all rolled like a bad wheel. "Down!" someone barked. While others hugged dirt, the rescued seal stared past Sopiha, eyes sharpening into a point. He opened his mouth. The word was a far-off bell. "Soapy." A shadow spilled across the dusty road like ink from a slit vein. She turned, saw hands, without a face, a rifle that wasn't theirs, and heard a safety click that sounded like the world choosing sides. Six didn't posture. She edited the world instead. The man with their uniform and someone else's eyes leveled the stolen rifle at Sopiha's sternum. "Don't," she said, steady. Her tone suggested gravity, not warning. "You have her," the man replied. "The ghost. The one who cut our towers." "Which ghost?" Sopiha asked mildly as if shopping. He blinked. Doubt crossed his face like a cloud over a pond. There and gone. Six stepped forward, barrel quiet. She touched the rifle the way you take scissors from a toddler who loves hair too much. Magazine down. Bolt back. Barrel high. Wrist twist. 3 motions. No music. The weapon came apart as if it had only been pretending to be whole. The man reached for a pistol. Keen bumped him with a cousin's shove. Not violent. Decisive. He fell and looked up at sky he hadn't earned. We all want to live, Six said, not unkind. Some of us also want other people to live. Choose, quickly. They moved before his answer had time to become a mistake. The road swelled and thinned, couldn't decide if it had been carved by hands or water. Dust clung and wrote white ropes around their calves. They'll read our names, a sergeant muttered. By the time they sound them out, we'll have changed the spelling, Six said. The map missed a cliff, a black basalt mouth chopped by water. The road walked to the edge and sat like an old man. Across the gap its twin waited. Same bones, different scars. A bridge had existed. Past tense. Lines, Sopiha said. Ropes snaked across. Litters sparked across like swans that forgot how to land. Sopiha went late, as leaders do. Wind hooked her midspan. She thumped stone, teeth ringing, watch-tapping rope with the faint chime of a spoon on enamel. On the far side, a boy's hands shook too hard to clip. Six took his fingers, pressed them to the gate, and waited until his hands remembered they belonged to him. He crossed, waved small, and Sopiha gave a nod that might outlast his fear. The forest opened its ribs to fields and quiet houses with burned mouths. People stood in doorways, not soldiers, just those who had learned to carry water and grief at once. The old woman at the well had eyes like a first river, patient, relentless. She didn't touch Six. Respect keeps space. Food? Six asked. You take, the woman said. You leave something. Not just metal, Sopiha told her men. She placed the empty wallet on the table. The woman lifted a gray eyebrow smile tucked in a corner. Empty, she said. Fill it with names, Sopiha answered. We have no paper, the woman said. I do. Sopiha tapped her temple. Trade began. Bread and roots for mended radios and a baby's loosened breath. The old woman's sons carried a crate to the path and refused the gratitude that tried to follow them. A crack split the quiet. 1, 2, 3. Measured. Six didn't. Look at the hills. She listened to the empty space between sounds. Snipers. 3. Maybe 4. Counter? The captain asked. With what they don't have, Six said. What's that? Patience. She lay in ash that matched her sleeves. Sopiha slid into a shallow beside her, cheek welded to stock, broken watch pressing a bruise into bone. A woman crossed the field with a bowl. The first enemy snapped his shot. Six took him a heartbeat earlier. Dirt spat where the woman's ribs should have been. The second sniper relocated sloppy. Fear tugs left on right-handed men. Sopiha waited for the shoulder to over-announce. It did. Click. Echo caught and kept. The third was a teacher, farther, higher. Six read the wind by the way ash stuck to her thumb. Far enough, she murmured. And foolish. 2 shots. Six cracked the glass. Sopiha threaded the eye. The 4th shot never came. The old woman bowed with her chin. Somewhere a child sang a stubborn tune. Move, Six said. They will bring wolves to replace the teachers. The road widened like a throat clearing. Engines growled low. Not trucks. Lower. Hunger made into steel. Treads, Keen said. More than one, the captain added. The road wants to read us, Six murmured. The first tank nosed through the trees, chewing a ditch as if it were bread crust. Sopiha reached into her pouch and touched the copper from the shrine, seeing the road as a wrist with a blue vein. Give me 2 minutes, she said. The turret started to turn, slow as a decision becoming a regret. 2 minutes is a house you can barely stand inside. Sopiha ran in a crouch, chalk dust puffing into ghost words behind her boots. She dug with a bayonet because shovels gossip. Copper wanted earth, earth wanted copper. She fed both. Charge? Keen asked, hands shaking from blood loss and need. The charge is there already, she said. They laid it when they built pride into the road. We'll write the sentence that makes it speak. 6 made the tanks blink, tapping optics, scratching periscopes, teaching steel to squint. The old woman closed her door softly and counted her children without moving her lips. Sopiha found a seam where dead cable kissed iron grate, a forgotten loop of the road's old breath. She stripped copper quick, thumbed battery to tongue out of habit, tiny thunder, and smiled. Sparks are a dialect sleep never teaches. A second tank arrived, grinding leaves to paste. A third bogged in a low wet and rocked itself like a bored bull. Back, 6 breathed. Sopiha crawled. The cracked watch scraped a crescent into the chalk, a little moon beside a comma-shaped print. The captain's whisper had teeth. Now? Now, Sopiha said, pressing copper to the battery's mouth. The dusty road lit from inside like a lantern under a sheet. A swell of dull light ran beneath chalk skin, and then the sentence reached its period. The first tank's track lifted an inch, then a foot, then a world. Earth folded, humble as a door deciding to open sideways. The turret sagged, gun yawning at sky. The second tank tried to turn and learned the old rule. When ground moves, wait is a liar. It slid into the hollow the first had made, nose down, treads sawing air. The third stopped rocking and started thinking, which is fatal for machines. Guns? The captain barked. Not victory. Maintenance. Sopiha didn't watch the kill. She watched the edges. Wolves come after noise, and the road's new voice would draw them. 6 already had angles drawn on air. Left flank, 3, she murmured. Low knee, high shoulder, late regret. Shots stitched. Men vanished into fern. The old woman's door opened a finger width, then closed again. Blessings move like that, half glimpsed, enough. Keen slumped against a stump, breath whistling.